your business cannot be your baby and you need to take emotions out of it. And I was just happy I made that decision. Even though it wasn't the perfect one, I did really well, but it led me to helping amazing people out and working with incredible people all over the world and sharing a lot of the things that I wish I knew, then. And that's been the most rewarding. So the first deal, because it led to, something that I'm made to do.
Hi, I'm Tom Shipley, and I want to welcome Jason Swenk. Excited about my friend Jason joining us. He's an agency advisor and coach, and for most everyone in the agency space, Jason. He guides marketing agencies through his proven framework. He's literally written the book on growing agencies from nothing to 8 figures. He's the one of the most sought after advisors in the agency worlds. By showing them how to use his 8-system framework. He's worked with brands like AT&T, Hitachi, Lotus Cars, and in his agency that he grew to 8 figures, he eventually ended up selling that, which is a great story. Jason currently hosts the Smart Agency Master Class podcast, which is the #1 digital marketing agency owners podcast. And where he shares his strategy about how to really scale their agencies. Jason is an off-roader, sports car enthusiast, and Ironman competitor, for those of you who didn't know that. And Jason is also part owner in Republics, an agency aggregator platform that has acquired over 10 agencies over the last 3 years. So really excited to have you, Jason.
Oh, thanks for having me on the show, Tom.
So this is the Deals and Exit podcast, and really would like to just jump into it and start getting some of your thoughts so that, and just excited to jump in. You work with so many agency owners right now and helping them scaling their business and you're doing this for years. So right now, what are some of the most common themes you're hearing of the challenges that agency owners are sharing with you?
Well, they're not getting enough leads, right? That's one of the biggest complaints, or they're not getting the right amount or the right clients. Because, like if you looked back at how most of us in the agency world have started, we were accidental agency owners, right? Like I designed a website making fun of NSYNC called InShit, and it had my 3 best friends. And then people started asking me to design websites. So I got started, and I was just reactive to the market for what was coming to me, and referrals aren't scalable. And so they don't have the right systems in place in order to, generate the right amount of leads or get the right clients down their door.
And what type of frameworks do you help them with in order to generate leads?
After I sold my agency, I started looking back, and what I discovered is this. There was 8 systems that really, when we started getting a lot of momentum and I started getting more freedom in my agency, there was 8. The first one is kind of boring, but it's so important. And this is what I look for in companies when we actually buy them. Do they have a vision, and have they communicated that to the team? And does the team have that vision? So, for example, if I went back maybe year 5 of the agency, I got to a point where we were a multi-million-dollar agency, but I hated it. Every decision kept going through me. There was constant ups and downs in revenue and leads. And it was just like, why do I it's like a whack-a-mole. And I got to a point where my wife said, why don't you just go quit the agency and go get a job if you're so miserable? And I actually took an interview. I took an interview with NASCAR. And they asked me 2 questions that really changed everything to help give me clarity. And they said, what do you love doing every day? And what don't you never want to do again? Now, I couldn't answer that in the meeting because I was like, I don't know. But I went back and I thought about it. And I started on thinking of all the things I hate, like project management, account management, hiring, like all the things. And then after I visualized and I wrote down all the things I didn't like, I was like, what's left? What do I love doing? I listed those out. And then that gave me clarity for where I wanted to go. Then I started thinking about the same thing with what types of clients do I want? What's their criteria? What do we want to do for them? And once I had that North Star, now I could communicate that to the team Now the team could make decisions without me, and it changed everything. So that's system one.
And so that's the first system. And then do you typically structure a lead gen system or push on personal branding for agencies? Or what are the key things you find that is working for agencies?
Let's talk about kind of what they're doing wrong first, and then we can talk about what they can do. Because too many people think about, well, now I know who I like, where I want to go, and they start prospecting. But they haven't positioned themselves in the right way, and they haven't figured out what's the right offering. It's kind of what I call the foundation, right? So when I talk about positioning, you have to pick a niche and you have to understand their biggest challenges. And you have to position it as a question where the focus is on them, not you. So, like, for example, if I go to most people's agencies' websites, it always talks about how many cups of coffee have they drank, all their animals they have in the office, their portfolio, their people, their process, blah blah blah. But if you really kind of envision it, like when I come to your event, right? So if I came up to you and you never knew me, and I said, "Hey Tom, my name is Jason. I am awesome. I am great. Here's all the things I do, blah, 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 blah." You're going to be like, you're kind of a jackass. Versus I go, "Hey, Tom, why'd you come to this event? Who are you wanting to meet? How can I actually help you?" And ask questions. I'm positioning it more in a way where I want to position as a trusted advisor versus an order taker. So you have to figure out how you can position. And then the third system is around offering. What's the right offer rather than pitching a retainer right off the bat, which is a high commitment, right? How can you slice that up to build trust, to make it an easy decision, right? And show value. So then you can get to, the next step. And so you have to have these three systems in place before you ever can prospect.
What are some of the types of offers or offerings do you see that's working now?
In system, or like in the offering system, you want to think about it as an offering ladder. So usually what I always do is I position kind of what I call like a triage call. So someone comes to me, I'm trying to diagnose what's their problem. Can I actually help them? Where do they need to go? And then what I'm doing from that is I'm positioning what I call my foot in the door offer. So that could be a lead blueprint. So if I was a pay-per-click agency, I would say, "Hey, Tom, based on everything you told me, I really think we should do this agency blueprint or lead generation blueprint. And what we're going to do is I'm going to map out what you're doing now and what you can do, and we're going to uncover the biggest challenges and put a plan together. Does that work?" And you charge something very small for this, so it's an easy decision. They get to work with you. They see some results. And then you can even, put in things like, "Hey, here are the three possible outcomes. You'll love the plan. You'll go execute it yourself. You'll love the plan. Number two, you'll want my help. We can talk about that. Number three, you don't like the plan. I'll give your money back. There's nothing for you to lose." Right? Like if you can't close on that.
Right. 100%.
Like the mistake agencies make on a foot in the door offer is they'll charge for an SEO audit. Well, no one wants to be audited. I don't want to be audited. They're not invested in that offer either. Right? Like if you build it with them, you kind of go back to like I think. Do you remember that show Columbo? You remember that that investigator? Remember how he'd always play dumb and ask questions? Perfectly, like he would always, right? Like that's what you kind of got to do in this kind of offer.
No, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. So let me pivot a little bit. I know we have a short time together, and I'm fascinated by what you're doing with Republics. Can you tell us a little about what you're doing, what the platform is?
Yeah, the goal for the past 3 years was just to scale through acquisitions. And most people, what they try to do is they scale through acquisitions with buying cheap companies or small companies that are distressed. And they think if they can turn them around, kind of like in Pretty Woman, I guess, or sell them off for parts, they can make a lot of money. We wanted to do it a little bit different. We wanted to look for agencies that were doing well, that were profitable and growing, and the team wanted to stay put, but they wanted to take some chips off the table, and they also wanted more support. So they may have some certain challenges in places, right? Like no one wants to sell when everything's 100% perfect, right? Like I don't know who wants to do that. There's always something in their mind they want to change. So if we can come in and we can find a company that's doing over 1 million in EBITDA, and we can like, so for example, I'll tell you like some of the deals, like without going through the names, like there was a agency doing 1 million in EBITDA. So we'd say you're worth 5 million in valuation. We'll give you 2.5 million in cash, and we'll give you 2.5 million in equity in the parent company, at that valuation. So then we just keep doing that over and over again. Then the challenge is always integrating, and making sure everything's working, or looking at that particular business and going, well, you have a whole finance department. We got a really good team here. We don't need a finance department. So let's go ahead and, we can eliminate that. Now you're even more profitable. And then we're on the way.
Is typically what you pay for an agency doing a 1 million EBITDA a 5X, or is that just an example?
No, that's usually what it is.
Really? Wow, that's good.
And we even do something on top of it too. So let's say, Tom, I'm trying to buy you, and you go, well, Jason, I think I'm going to wait a year because I think I'm going to be worth a lot more, right? Like if I can get to the 3 million in EBITDA, then your multiple actually goes up. I'll say, Tom, cool, let's do an earnout on that particular piece. You'll still get the 2.5 million cash. You'll still have 2.5 million in EBITDA. But if you achieve these numbers and we don't even set a time frame on it, you'll get that. You'll get your earnout of what you want. Because earnouts, I mean, they're designed for most people for the buyer to win and the seller to lose.
And the interesting thing that I've never heard before is without a time frame.
Yeah, because we want them to grow. Like we don't want what and the reason why we do this is when I sold my first agency, I lost my earnout by 1 day.
So let me just do an example so everyone listening understands this. So you buy an agency, 1 million in EBITDA, and hypothetically, if your platform would be doing 10 million in EBITDA when you did that acquisition, would they have then 10% of the platform, or how would that work out? How do you actually translate? Or actually, it'd be half because just 2.5 million at close, so it'd be half of that. So would it be?
So if they had 2.5 million in equity, then they have that basically goes into whatever we evaluated Republics. So that on those evaluations. So Republics is over the 8 figures in EBITDA. We get a pretty high multiple, if you can imagine, right? So then that's the valuation. So the more deals we do, the 2.5 million's less.
Totally understand that. And how do you determine the valuation of Republics at that point?
We do basically a sliding scale that we go over in the agreements, and we show kind of, like, all right, if we're at, because, like I was saying, 1 million in EBITDA, anything under 1 million in EBITDA is usually around 1 to 2x. So there's a pretty big jump when you can get to the million. Then there's another jump up when you get to the 3, and then there's a really big jump when you can get over the 8-figure mark. Right? It's over the 10x multiple.
Now, that's great. And what is your buy box criteria as far as what do you look for when you're looking for agencies?
Yeah, let's start with the owners, right? We want them to stay. So when we buy, we tell you not to tell your clients for 6 months. We don't want anybody to rock the boat. We want you to tell your team because we'll support the team more, but we don't change the company name. We don't want to change the structure. We just want to see how you operate, and then how can we make it more efficient, and then how do we bolt it on. So then after the 6 months, then we start changing things, but we still don't want to change the brand. We just want to say a wholly owned company by Republics, right? And here's all our portfolio and that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's how we've been doing it. But and there's some really, really smart people on the team. I own about this much of it. And my responsibility is just find the amazing deals that have gone through my framework, and then be like, yeah, here you go.
No, that's really, really smart. And do you mentor the agency owners as Jason Swenk after the acquisition?
No, I wish we did. Trying to work on that deal.
And then is there a common theme you have to the type of agencies you're acquiring in the platform?
Yeah. Well, I can go over kind of some of the elements that we're looking for. So, they all have, a digital play. They all have, a vision, and their team knows their vision, kind of going back to what I was talking about. They have multiple channels for getting clients. So they're not just relying on one channel. Like, for example, like I was talking about referrals, they have a way for outbound, they have an inbound channel, they have strategic partnerships, right? They're constantly building their pipeline. Other ones, they don't have any clients over 20% of their gross revenue. So they have a diverse client base. They have an audited, or like, they have a dashboard or audited way to figure out their KPIs to really measure what's working, what's not working. Um, Audited financials are really key. Like, how many times do you talk to people and they think their numbers are X, and then it's really not? Like, it's not even close.
Oh, by the way, I don't think I've ever seen an agency under a couple $1 million that has audited financials or even reviewed financials. At best case in good shape. Most of the time are a little bit challenging.
Yeah. Like, for example, like when we sold solar, the first agency, when the acquirer was asking for things, we got them like that. Where most people, they take forever. We're like, oh, here you go. Here you go. Like, everything was in place. Another thing too is the owner is is doing kind of what I call kind of 4 or 5 roles, and really acting as the CEO. So they're not doing sales, they're not doing marketing, they're not doing client delivery, right? They're setting the vision, they're communicating it to the team. They're the face of the organization. They're coaching and mentoring their leadership team. They know the numbers, right? And they're building key relationships. So those are the 5 roles that we really look for on that. I'm trying to think of, yeah, I think those are really kind of all the elements.
And you're indifferent from a niche perspective, correct? They can be e-com, automotive, home services, branding, production, gaming.
Doesn't matter.
And then the platform itself, where'd the funding come from?
T- well, so the company is headquartered in Toronto. And so there was a lot of cool funding that they could get in Canada, especially around COVID. And so there was a lot of funding there. And then we took on some investors, like myself and other people that, put in money and put in time.
That's great. And are you leveraging for future acquisitions? Are you leveraging debt or is it purely equity?
Both.
Okay, really, really interesting. Did you all find that last year with the hiccup at I'm going to call it hiccup, the explosion of Silicon Valley Bank and First Republic, that getting debt financing was a little bit of a challenge during that period of time in the April?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's harder to get money now, right? Like, it's, people are a lot smarter too, right? Like, just because you have an idea, but you have to go prove it. But the team has done well. I mean, it hasn't been without its hiccups and challenges and crazy things that have happened. There's a lot of learning things that the team went through, and yeah, it's been an interesting ride.
As this is the Deals and Exit podcast, kind of looking over your career, what was your favorite deal that you're most proud of? And a deal can be an acquisition, a merger, could be a licensing deal, strategic relationship, really doesn't matter.
It was probably the first agency I sold because it was my first. It was, it was my baby, um, which is always hard to sell your baby. But then what I learned is your business cannot be your baby, and you need to take emotions out of it. Um, and I was just happy I made that decision, even though it wasn't the perfect one. I did really well, but it led me to helping amazing people out and working with incredible people all over the world and sharing a lot of the things that I wish I knew, then. And that's been the most rewarding. So the first deal, because it led to, something that I'm made to do.
So what I found is that I don't know. There's different people's philosophy on it, and so I can only talk about my sample size of n=1, which is me. So um, I I realized many years ago that businesses come and go. My closest friends and my family is forever, so that's really is my anchor, and that's where I need to put my priorities, especially on my family and look the way I manage my time. However, I love the game, and therefore I am passionate about every business. So I don't take things personally and emotionally, but I'm passionately and emotionally involved in my businesses. And I go just like some people do for sports and they go all in. Other people do it for car racing, go all in. I go all in with businesses, and I love to be the man in the arena, mud and dirt, and just I just love that with the team and building something great with the big vision. So that's how I believe that I personally am emotionally connected, but not that it defines me as far as life. That one business.
Yeah, that was something when I sold the first business I struggled with. I even went to like a Tony Robbins event, walked on fire, walked out the first day because I was like, this is stupid. And then someone got burned. I was like, oh shit, it's real. But like, I was so lost because everything I knew I sold. And so I didn't have that significance. And I related myself to an agency owner versus, a husband, a father, someone creative, someone adventurous, right? Like that stuff will never go away. I'll always be a father, I'll always be adventurous and creative and that kind of stuff. Um, I could sell this business. Like, for example, last year, someone offered us crazy amount of money for agency mastery. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, I love what we're doing. I was like, no, I'm good and entertained a couple, and then I was like, no man, like what would I do after? Like I want to do this.
Can you tell me about agency mastery?
Yeah, it goes back to I wanted to create something that I wish I had when I was running my first agency. And when you're running an agency, it's very lonely, and you can get coaches and consultants, and I did that, and I joined other kind of networking events, but I never felt like I found my tribe. So I always wanted to create a resource where we would put out constant information, connect the best agency owners in the world, allow them to network and really grow their businesses together and share what's working, what's not working. And so that's what we've done. We've basically built a community just for agency owners where they can engage and interact so they can grow their agency faster, they can work less, they can get the right amount of clients and ultimately create more freedom in their agency and have fun doing it.
And then how many people are in the community?
Yeah, we have under 100, so it's a very small.
Oh my God, that's beautiful and intimate.
Yeah, like in right after your event, the week after your event, which perfect timing. We're having our agency experience where we rent out 100,000-acre ranch for our members, and it's along the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado. And they have 2,000 bison on this ranch that we rent out, and so we ride horses and have epic food and adventures for a couple days. And it's just we always create intimate experiences.
That's great. It's funny. And what you do is you give space for the agency owners to breathe. The one things that I find myself challenged with, and my wife tells me, she just comes to me and says, breathe. Because I constantly fill my bucket of just different things that I can do because I'm in this game, but I actually forget to breathe. So and the fact that you're an open bison, 100,000 acres, fresh air is for agencies that are getting out of their head, decompressing and just breathing and just getting along, being around people that get them.
Yeah. Like we have 3 hours in the morning each day where we mastermind and then we go off and do epic adventures. Right. But what we found, we've been doing this for 6 years now. What we found is when you're doing the epic adventures and you're doing the other things, people are connecting way more than you would in a classroom environment. And it's just a lot of fun.
I want to take a step back and we're talking about when you sold your agency, and because that's what people might be interested in is how was that process? How was that for your team after the event? How did that go?
I was every emotion in the book. like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're doing this. Should we do this? Yes, no, we did it. People were mad. People were happy. Did I make the right decision? Did I, should I have done it? Like every decision went through everyone's head, honestly. Um, at the end of the day, it was a great deal. Could I have done it a lot better and structured it different? Like, for example, one thing I tell people to do different, especially when you sell, because everyone's always going to have an earnout in there or something. And the company really wants you to do it, but they don't want you to hit it because then there's a ton of money that they have to pay. So they want you to get kind of close. And sometimes they'll hinder you because you don't make the decisions anymore. So if I could have done it over again, I was happy with the cash. I did own part of the company that we sold, and then we sold that 9 months later. So I had 2 exits. But the earnout, that was a lot of money that was on the table. So what I would have done different is this. I would have said, until you pay me my earnout, I have total control. I have total say. And then if I hit it and you don't pay, I get everything back. I get total ownership of it. I keep everything that you gave us, right? That's what I would do. And a lot of our members that have sold have done this. 2 of them actually got their agency back and they kept all the cash they had.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. One thing I like to tell entrepreneurs is it's ideal when you can have 3 exits in your lifetime. And I love to see when entrepreneurs have that and can create that. And it doesn't matter the size; it's just something along the way, and not putting all your eggs in your same basket. Because as entrepreneurs, we have unique skill set that allows us to take a concept or even existing business, and scale it to be something special. And we should enjoy that. And it's also a philosophy of, like we started at the very beginning, which was not getting tied up in that first business is my life. It defines me. It's everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me ask a question. You spend so much time in the agency, you talk with a lot of agency owners. There is massive changes in the environment right now with agencies, and especially with AI. What do you envision over the next 24 months the outlook for agency is or are?
Well, it depends on if they're embracing it or not, right? Like AI is not going to replace the agency, but people that use AI will replace the other agencies. So you got to look at it. And some AI is just really like annoying and dumb, right? Like, so for example, the other day we exported out from our CRM like over 10,000 responses of people buying our products of why they invested and what their biggest challenges were. And I wanted to run it through shit GBT. Um, I nicknamed that. Maybe that'll stick. Now they'll probably take me off their platform or whatever if it ever finds me out. But I don't give a shit. Put it through, and it just kept producing crappy results. Now AI will get better and better, and especially with the creation and all this. I believe it will make us way more efficient, and we can streamline a lot of different things. But I'm excited for the agencies, right? Like the ones freaking out, well, they are not adapting to change. You don't If you don't constantly change and kind of like, and everyone always asks me like, there was someone interviewing Jeff Bezos, and I heard him say this, and I wish people asked people this more. Who cares about what's going to change? Ask what's not going to change, and build your business that way.
The one niche I try to think about, okay, what is the logical consequences, and then what, or the first order and second and the third order impact. So I'm trying to understand in different niches in the agency world. And so the first niche I'm looking at, and it's also a question is, should I be investing in those as I acquire agencies? Should I be investing in those? The first is SEO. If you tell me what is the predictable, most consistent cash flow business, retainer-based long-term clients, that's great. If you asked me that 3 years ago, I would have said, even 2 years ago, I would have said SEO agencies.
That business is changing.
Yes, because I know that searches, I look for products on Amazon, first is where I go. And then when I have questions, I'm using one of the 3 major LLMs that are out there as far as questionings, and I get customized to me answers for that. And therefore my searches and my value of what I'm doing is going down. And I'm not quite sure how the platforms are going to adapt to that, and the value of unless those SEO agencies that can figure out how to rank for the LLM is where the money's going to be.
Here's the deal: is SEO is just a service, but what agencies need to focus on is figuring out a solution to a big problem, because the client doesn't care if you rank them high in a search engine or you pay for it if they're paying the same amount to them, right? They literally go, I have a problem. I want more leads. I want more better leads. Agency, how can you fix this? The agencies that will go away or lose market share are the ones that just do one particular service. They're not focused on a solution. They're the ones that are going to hurt, because they're the ones being an order taker. And if I have to give someone an order, I can always find someone faster, cheaper, and better. I want someone to say, based on what your challenges are, Jason, here's what I recommend. Like I'm looking for a social media agency to do our social media. So I went into Google search and did social media agencies for, and I hate to term myself a coach because I hate the word coach, but I just did that. So I go on this website, I fill out the form. They actually did something really well. They called me right back, like really quick. And I was always like that. While someone would fill out a form, I would call them back while they're still on the website going, Tom, I'm so sorry. It took me a while to call you back. And they're like, right? And so like I was always very prompt. But then I went to them, I said, do you focus on paid or do you focus more or organic? Well, we do it all. Oh, okay. All right. And then I said, well, if I went to your social media account, what am I going to find? Oh, no, don't do that. Like we're the cobbler of shoes. Well, we believe in building brands more for individuals rather than brands. I said, well, so if I go to your founder, I can get that. Oh, no, we don't get any business that way. I'm like, well, why the hell am I going to hire you?
Right. As we're wrapping up, what advice do you have for agency owners?
Know the direction, be consistent and persistent. So always show up and just whittle, like you're the water in the Colorado River and you're carving out the Grand Canyon. It doesn't happen over time. Everything big that you see starts off small. There's no quick tricks for success overnight. It's earned in blood and tears. But you can do it more fun, and don't think about just the end goal. Like, I know this is kind of an exit podcast, right? Enjoy the whole ride. Like I'm looking at a mountain right now, right? Like when we climb the mountain, I'm just doing it one step at a time and I'm enjoying every level, not just the top. Most of the time you get so high in the mountain, you climb up to the top, you got to turn around. Like it's time to go. You can't enjoy and it's farther to fall when you're at the top.
It's funny because when you sell your business, you miss the good times. You even miss the challenging time where you feel like you're Lieutenant Dan at Forrest Gump. Is that all you got with the gale force winds? You miss both of those. So enjoying both of those. And even when you're going and you're facing those gale force winds, to understand is you are uniquely capable of solving it and you're going to get through it. You'll figure it out. So just even enjoy those times. So it's a great piece of advice.
One of the things I started doing, maybe only for a couple of weeks, but it's really helped me out tremendously. And I haven't heard it from anybody. I started thinking about it, or maybe I've subconsciously heard it from someone. Always envision when something's bad, always envision 10 years from now, you would love to be right back here, right at this moment, going through this exact thing. So just remember that.
I really like that. Jason, thank you. I'm so excited to have you join us as one of our key speakers in our CEO M&A Summit. Is coming up September 23rd through 25th in Nashville, dealconlive.com. You'll be leading one of our sessions, and so excited about that. We have some incredible speakers, and you're just a gift to that room and the people that get to meet you and hang out with you. So very excited about that.
Well, thanks for having me.